Yeah, point it at the camera, point it at the camera.
Okay. Who likes to get more done in less time? Who feels like they use their time efficiently every day?
Every day.
Okay. So we're going to talk a lot of ways to use your time a lot more efficiently. I have this sheet that's right here, if you want to pass it around. On one side, of course, I'm coming out with another book. I've got quite a few productivity books. I'm going to be putting out one every quarter specific to those quarter and those things. But one of the things that's most critical in productivity is actually writing stuff down. We all use the electronics, we all have those things, but actually writing things down make it more productive. I just heard, and this is just a quick tip, I'm going to do a lot of tips once I get done with the presentation, but have you ever heard about, that your top 3 things to do in a day? And most of us have it on our to-do list. A lot of us have it up here. How many of you put it on a post-it note and put it in front of you the whole day long?
It sits on my keyboard.
No, it really does make a difference. If it's in front of you, you're 10 times more likely to get it done because things will come up. And if you don't have a constant reminder all day long that those things are the most critical, most important, it's also a fallacy. Has anybody ever heard do the most important thing first thing in the morning? Does that work for everybody? You got to know where you're most creative, where you have the most energy. Some of us like to sit down and get stuff done in the morning. Some of us like to get going and get moving in the morning. In the afternoon, we're better at sitting down for tasks. So it really depends on the task and your energy level. We're all different. So you have to find out what works best for you. So a lot of the suggestions are good as an overall, but not necessarily for each person. So today we're going to talk about 2-hour workday. Somebody who's read is it 4-hour work week? Okay. So it's possible. It's possible. I haven't. I read Cliff Notes. I do audiobooks. So
in certain industries.
Yes. In digital industries, in service-based industries, that's incredibly important. We're talking about managing, being a business owner. Okay. So if you are in a service-based industry and you're working those service-based things, you are a employee of your own company. This is talking about management and ownership. So all your management and ownership tasks, you can get done in a very short amount of time. So just trying to preference at that. Now, if you want to be part of your service-based industry because you enjoy the customer service, you enjoy those interactions, that's on you. But I'm saying those tasks don't necessarily have to be part of your day unless you choose to. So myself, a lot of my business tasks get done very quickly. So the part of the interaction with clients, with customer service, I could outsource those, but I like to do them. So, that's me managing my time. And a lot of this is getting more control and more management of your own time. Because has anybody ever had a day where at the end of the day, they don't even know what they got done? Because something came up, something got in the way, something overtook your priorities. And so we're going to talk a lot about how to eliminate that, how to get past a lot of those things. So just as a side note, I always want to say this is sponsored by SCORE.org. If you haven't heard of those, anybody who knows me probably has heard about SCORE. Wearing the shirt. It's a great organization, national free mentorship, help, and support for entrepreneurs. 712 Innovations, this place, if you haven't been to the 1 Million Cups or some of the other events that are held here, please get on the list.
Is 1 Million Cups, is that the first Wednesday of every month?
First Wednesday of every month, and there's
next week.
I will.
yeah, and there's a sheet on the table out there of all the other events that are going on here. There's quite a few things that go on here for entrepreneurs and people that, especially digital marketers, different things like that. There's a lot of resources. But of course, my company, Ken's Business Solutions, my website management, No Worry website, that's my hosting company. And a nonprofit that I'm starting this year, 501 Legacy Fund, because I want people that came from the school that I came from to have an even better experience, more opportunities than I felt like I did. So that's a passion project. And the wonderful thing is, again, the less time I spend on my business, the more time I can spend on those things and things that are passionate to me. And when I talk about passionate to me, my clients are passionate. I'm really excited about that. But today, we usually do 10 minutes of introduction. Some of you know each other. Some of you actually haven't met a few people in here. Just 20 minutes of training. I know I always promise that, but I always tend to elaborate past 20 minutes. But I hope you appreciate some of my elaboration. And then a half hour of just discussion, answering specific questions, and of course you're welcome to stay after that. So most of you all know me at this point, but does anybody know I was in the military? Gotta add something that's not on the slide. I did Army Reserves for 8 years, drove the big tanker trailers, so just figure I'd give you a tidbit that's not on the slide, since a lot of people know different things about me. I had a speaker in the room the other day. I don't think you were there, but mentioned something about military strategy. He's relating it to business, and he was speaking to a room of women, and he said, well, I know that might not relate to most of you in the room. And I sit there and chuckle, because today's women, there's a good percentage of them with military experience. So military strategy makes perfect sense as far as business relations. So, okay, just as a side note, as a joke, because I gotta add the jokes in there, because I'm not that funny. So when I think of something funny, I want to share. When I met my husband, I was still in the military. Well, when we were dating, and when I get back from a weekend, I was talking about my privates and what we did that weekend. And for some reason, he'd turn into a 12-year-old boy and start chuckling. Because I realized that when I'm talking my terminology, it doesn't make the same relation to it. So anyway, so I had to figure out, a different word to use when I was talking about what I did that weekend. Because everything got a chuckle, because everything ended up being funnier. Okay, so why do we need to be able to be the most productive as possible with our time and limit the amount of time that we spend on things that we don't need to? We all only have so much life to live, and we all only have 24 hours a day. And I don't know about you, I like to sleep, some of it. I was looking at my watch, or I time my sleep, I see how good a sleep I get, and I'm getting the quality 8 hours. That's one of my goals. But I also like to spend a lot of time with my family. Kind of like to have fun in life. You guys hear work hard, play hard. If you work efficiently, you have a lot more time to enjoy life. So everything takes time, and we're going to talk about productivity tips. So I have just 4. I'm trying to break it down to 4 simple tips. Okay, because you like simple, right?
Yes.
4 tips, and I actually have a 4-part video series that I'll be putting out throughout the week on my Facebook page that kind of goes into each one of these. So each one's got a day. But 4 things that will increase your productivity is having some sort of system in place. So in other words, habits, what you do, some sort of auditing method. So when something comes on your plate and you have to decide whether to do it or not, you have some sort of reference point as far as where it falls in priority, so it doesn't overtake your day. Make sure you're clear on what you're doing. This goes into goals, strategies, we'll talk more about that, and having a plan. A lot of us wake up in the morning and we might have a plan, but honestly, it is not a very clear, audited, filtered plan, and sometimes and that's when we allow other things to get in the way. We don't have a really good plan to be productive. So in systems, one of the things that is so important is setting goals. And I gave you on your worksheet what SMART goals are. And if anybody's hasn't heard of SMART goals, it's being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. These are all critical, and I go into a little more detail on your sheet, but it's really important when you're setting goals to make sure that it's realistic. If you got a budget of $1, but you want to put together $1 million marketing campaign, probably not going to happen. You're going to be disappointed. Somebody said the best way to achieve your goals is cut them in half. So if you want to lose 10 pounds this month, have a goal of 5. You're 10 times more likely to achieve it because it's more realistic. It's not so far of a gap between what you've seen success with before that in other words, you're going to have those milestones a lot quicker if your goals have. So, if you want to make $10,000 and last month you made $2,000, probably your goal should be $5,000. I mean, it's just being realistic. You can't bridge the gap that much unless you have a ton of resources and a ton of time. And most of us don't have both of those. Now, if you have a lot of resources and a lot of time, you can get a lot more done. But all we're talking about doing today is reducing your time. So The more specific, the more measurable, the more realistic they are, the more likely you're gonna get them done. In other words, I do this a lot. Write something down on your to-do list and think it's gonna take you an hour and it actually took you 8. That's not being realistic about what you estimated it would be. So again, that realistic is how long is it gonna really take you? Because if it's really gonna take you 8 hours and you could have outsourced that for $20, you're not saving $20, you just lost a whole day. So you really need, the more realistic you are with the amount of time something will take or the skill set that it's gonna take to do that, the more efficient you can be with your time and the better you can make decisions. So another part of the system, ABC or blocking. So ABC, everything has a priority level. A-level task, I actually, sometimes because I like marking things off my to-do list, I put my A task as things that'll take me 10 minutes or less to do, like making a phone call, checking on stats, emailing a client, doing things because I can get a lot more done. And so the more things I get done, the more successful I feel in a day, especially if they're priorities. So a priority are the things that need done that day, so are time-based, and honestly, those little tasks that need done, that you can get done quick and get them off of your to-do list, because the more things you have on the to-do list, the more cluttered your head is. So, B, C, if they're past A, B, and C, they probably shouldn't even be on your list this week. That would be in reevaluate next week task. Again, I kind of do it because it helps me block out time, is do A task under 10 minutes, B task under a half hour or half hour under, and C task anything that's going to take me more than that. Because in my mind, that tells me too, on those C tasks, I need to evaluate a couple things because they're more time intensive. Are they bringing money into my business? Are they really needed, or is it a wish list item? And can I outsource it and get that time back? Because usually those are the things we underestimate a lot as far as how long it'll take. And high, medium, and low time blocking. Carl, I know you mentioned something the other day. It's really important to block out your time. The human body can only sit still for so long and be mentally engaged in things. So honestly, every half hour or every hour, get up, go to the bathroom, grab a drink of water, different things like that. So it's extremely important for me. I know I have like a 15-minute timer on my phone, especially tasks that I think will take me 15 minutes. It's more of a test of how realistic I am. I set it, see how many tasks I can get done in 15 minutes. And if I don't get it done and it's not an A priority task, I move on to the next one, because that means I wasn't very realistic. But again, C task or anything below C is one of those things you need to reevaluate whether you can eliminate, outsource, or and make sure you're really realistic on the amount of time it'll take. Because I know C tasks are things I'm like, oh, I can do it. But if it's going to take a whole day and I could have been doing more productive things, I shouldn't do it. So auditing. We talk about audit, most important task of the day. Again, everybody has 1 to 3 things in a given day that is what is the most important thing you need to do that day. Have you ever read the book Eat That Frog? It's a good book. It's kind of humorous. It's kind of goes into the most important task of the day. But the whole idea is eating a frog doesn't sound like it tastes good. I mean, I don't think of the frog legs or the gourmet stuff when I hear eat the frog. I think of a slimy green something. And the whole idea of it is a lot of times the things that we need to do the most are not the most pleasant. The things that we avoid, the things that we've been putting off. But it's also the things that stress us out and clutter up our brain because we're putting it off and we know we're putting it off. It could be a difficult conversation. It could be hiring somebody. It could be spending money. It could be making changes. Those are things we put off for a reason because it's more comfortable for us. So the idea of eat that frog is do that before you have lunch. Just get it out of the way. Because then it's all downhill. I mean, if you do the things that you are avoiding and or especially if it's the most important thing and you get it done, you feel more productive the whole rest of the day. Versus at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, oh crap, I haven't got that done yet. And it needs to be turned in by 5 or something. So most important task of the day. This is an audit. Every day you have at least 1 to 3 things that really should be circled and or highlighted. 80-20 rule. Again, How many of the times do we do 80% of the things that come up during the day that didn't add value to our business, didn't add value to our life, didn't serve our highest purpose and goals, that wasn't the best use of our time? I know for me, some things like graphic design or content writing, it is not the best use of my time. I know my skill set. It's in the technical, the analytics, the strategy part. And so I can spend hours and hours doing something that I could have outsourced and got done in 5 minutes better. And so, again, that goes into the auditing. Know your skill set, know what's the highest use and value of your time and what the things will pay back. But 80% of the things we're doing is not bringing in revenue, is not adding value. I mean, how many of you have been on social media with the intent of working, but ended up reading or watching some other videos? I mean, you know, we go on there for work purposes. I mean, we had good intentions, but we get sidetracked. How many of you get a phone call that you answered and somebody spent 20 minutes talking to you and you know that wasn't a necessary conversation that day? So, couple things, and we're going to talk about some different things, but in we're going to talk about emails and things in the clearing, because a lot of things clutter up our day that are interrupting and different things like that. The rule is, for every time you get interrupted, or every time you answer an email, every time you check your social media, every time you look at a text on your phone, you lose 5 minutes of your day. And every time you spend 20 minutes on something else, half of that time it takes you to get back in the groove of what you were doing. So multitasking actually gets you 50% less productivity. So again, blocking out time, being focused, and not allowing distractions in there really help you get that 20% done. Because we all know in your business, we all know in our business that only 20% of what we do actually adds income, adds value. The other 80%, we consider it the necessary evils of, I mean, you know, honestly, getting out of your pajamas doesn't add income. Depending on what business you're in, I should say. But it's a necessary fact. So the quicker and more efficient you can do those things that are necessary, the better. But we're going to talk about how to eliminate a little bit of that 80% in the next one. Declutter. Who has a very organized office and would love for me to come in and say, you are the example of the way an office should be? Anybody?
My wife.
Okay. But that's, again, going to the skill sets. Going to the skill sets and honestly preferences, and you know, everybody's got a different thing that it's really important to them. I mean, if you're OCD, you couldn't function in a place that isn't. But honestly, again, it goes into that percentage productivity. If your office space is cluttered, you cannot be 100% efficient, because you will spend more time looking for files. You will spend more time digging through your emails. How many of you have over 1,000, or let's say over 100 unread emails in your inbox? Okay. How many of you have thousands of emails that are read, marked as read, but you probably skimmed? Yeah. I will say Gmail keeps emailing me because I'm maxing out on my capacity, because I file a lot of emails that I have the intention of really thoroughly reading later because they had good stuff in it. How many newsletters are you subscribed to?
Not very many.
You'd be surprised. There's a site called unenroll.me. If you subscribe to it, put your email in, you will find out you are signed up for probably hundreds of newsletters that you are getting spammed on. Some of them are going in folders, some of them don't go to your inbox, but you are on somebody's list, and a lot of them. Last time I looked, I had over 300 newsletters that I was subscribed to. The wonderful thing about that type of program is it will, anytime you get an email from any newsletter, because they can tell if it's from a friend or from a newsletter, it will go into a single email at the end of the day. So it declutters a lot of those pop-ups of things that might distract you. Anybody got an email from one of those that it had a link and it's like, here, watch this video or learn these 5 tips or different things like that, and you spent time on it? Wasn't even on your to-do
No,
list.
I immediately delete.
Unless
I'm
it's from
very
me.
suspicious of all of those.
Well, no, I'm saying from a trusted source.
Okay.
I'm saying from a
Somebody
trusted
needs to
source.
subscribe,
Like, you know, Home and Gardens magazine or something like that, where it's like, oh, you know, 5 tips to not kill your houseplant today. I might be like, yeah, I need to know that. Didn't need to know it today. And honestly, I'm probably still gonna kill it. I know me. So declutter. So those are a couple things you can eliminate by decluttering. So, and the nice thing is that Enroll Me has a link where you can just click unsubscribe, 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 mass unsubscribe yourself to a lot of emails. Because you know what? If it was really important, you'll probably resubscribe at some point. It'll come across your feed. I know, especially with Facebook and those automated giveaways and things like that, I get trapped into, oh yeah, I want that, but then I forget to unenroll. And it really clutters up the email. Organize your office. The more organized your office is, you know, you're 20% more efficient. The more organized your email is. Email can really kill efficiency. How many times, or how good is your contact list? Have you ever had to struggle to get a hold of somebody that you know you needed their phone number? I know we just went through a big thing. Roger had, you know, almost 700 business cards, and he has books, and I have your books, that, you know, there's no real way to get, you know, Alice's email without flipping through and trying to remember where it is on that book, because it may be in his email, it may be in his contact list, but it's not synchronized to different things. So in other words, the more organized you are, the more efficient you are. It eliminates distractions. Okay, eliminate distractions. We talked a little bit about email. Email is one of those things, the quickest way, and this is a discipline thing, the quickest way to eliminate probably an hour of wasted time a day is check your emails at 8 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon and no other time. Because if somebody emails you after 2, they probably don't necessarily expect you to get back with them that day. Or you can do it at 5, whatever you choose. You can do one quick check. Give yourself a time limit, and don't check it every hour. How many check their email every hour? How many have notifications on at least 2 apps on their phone? Where it comes up with that little red dot that says how many you are waiting for or miss. And we think we got to get back to those right away. We don't. If somebody emails, my whole theory is somebody emails you, they don't expect a response within the hour. If they call you, they do. So distinguish those. Make sure. Does anybody have a message on their phone, which is, it's a really good thing, especially if you're in business, and especially if you have a lot of business, that it's standard voicemail message. You let things go to voicemail and you say, if this is an emergency, put it in the text and I will, or, you know, text me, or call this other number. This is my personal line. Because if it's not an emergency, they'll leave a message and you'll get back to them. If it is, you know it. But 99% of phone calls are not something you need to address in an hour. So you can do the same thing with your phone. You can just put it in your drawer, put it on silent for several hours a day. Now, I struggle with that, I'll admit, because I got 3 kids. And I have a paranoia. If I don't have my phone on me and I don't look, if I get a phone call, I know it's gonna be the day the one kid gets in a broken arm at the school play yard or something. I just know it. It's always gonna happen. The only time one day I ignored a phone call because I was getting all those spammy phone calls, so I just was getting it. If it wasn't local or it didn't have a name on it, I just ignored it. And it was my son who didn't have his cell phone and was borrowing a phone call because he needed picked up early because they let out practice early, and I ignored his phone call. Guess what? A good friend of mine called me in about 10 minutes to say that they were trying to get a hold of me, but I didn't know that phone number. So it can bite you, but overall, 99% of the time, you're not going to have that issue. But phone calls, alerts, notifications. How many of you have notifications that pop up on your phone?
Just not so much.
Turn them off.
I will say the biggest annoyance for me is Facebook Messenger on group chats or group text. I get so angry. But do you know if you ever get those where I have a few people. Anybody got those friends that text you too much? You can silence their notifications. because I have certain people in my life that text me just randomly. It's not important. It's never been important. There's no text that they've ever sent me that's been extremely important. I silence those. All the others that I know only text me when it's important, like my mother, because she doesn't use text. So if she's texting, it's a big deal. In fact, if she Facebook's messaged me, I know she got hacked because she'll never do that. But those notifications really are time killers. They really are. So unless it's something that's serious and important, silence. You can silence anybody who's not a high client or somebody you know will never, and again, a couple times a day, schedule it. The more your life is scheduled, the less unproductive you're gonna be. So making a plan. Start and stop timers. These are great things. There's a lot of apps out there now, and I can recommend a few that I've used when we get in the talk. But I just use the basic timer on my phone for 15 minutes, because guess what? You can hit repeat, go on to the next task for 15 minutes. So at least you know how long you've been on something. You may stop it and be like, oh, I'll get up in 5 minutes and then be there for another hour. I did that the other day. But those start and stop timers really help. If you are doing client work or other things, there's a lot of great things for time tracking. And I actually just had one the other day that works really well as far as you can say a certain client. Say, I plan to work for 2 hours, it will notify you 10 minutes before the 2 hours is up saying that you were gonna wrap up that client work that day. So that you are more likely to just spend 2 hours on that work. There's a lot of things that can help us with technology. Again, those are things, block out the time and only work on one task. The more focused you are, the quicker you're gonna get done and the more you're gonna get done. Plan out the next day or week. So, again, this is one of the best productivity, and I'm still, even though I use a lot of electronic help, paper and pencil kind of person. If it's really important, it needs written down. If it's written down, it'll get done. And guess what? You can't say you weren't gonna do it, or you can't say it wasn't on the list, or you can't forget if it's written down, because at some point in time you gotta look at it. But one of the most important things, how many of you put your to-do list together in the morning? The night before? That is the most productive time. 2 things. If you think about it the night before, hopefully it doesn't keep you up at night. But your brain works through a lot of problem solving when you sleep. Your brain is an amazing thing. When you sleep and when you recover, it's actually figuring out the most efficient ways to get things done. Most creative. It's at its peak creativity when you're in your sleep zone. So if you write it down the day before, 1, it's in your mind when you wake up, but 2, overnight you actually will process it and become more efficient at that task, because you'll have ideas you didn't have when you went to bed. You will have things and ways. You just don't want to have ideas that take you off of that task. We all wake up and we're like, "Ooh, that was brilliant," or at least I. But if you plan out your next day or next week, always be ahead of the schedule. Never wake up and make your plan, because you get up and plan to make your plan, and then it's noon and you still haven't written down your to-do list. Anybody ever had that? I mean, if we're honest, we've all had those days where we're like, get up, we get going, we get 15 things done, or we have 15 different distractions, or we had a couple appointments in the morning, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and our to-do list is empty, because we never really sat down to write it down. So the earlier you write it down, or especially the day before, the week before, look at your next week before the week shows up. It eliminates the mental clutter of not knowing, and so you can make a plan the more you know it. So those are just the 4 quick tips. And again, each one of these, it's a multiplier. So this can eliminate 20% of your time. 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 So therefore, you actually can eliminate 80% of your day if you incorporate all those things. And again, my favorite thing is some of this stuff as far as eliminating things that aren't necessary. Be honest with yourself, because we all do things that aren't necessary. We also all do things that could be automated or eliminated, and we don't even know it. I mean, we talked about the other day about things you're like, well, I didn't know we could do that. Or I didn't know that was, I didn't even know I had those options. I had a great conversation. I just got to brag a bit because I'm bragging on a client because it was a great conversation. In a period of an hour, we saved about $2,000 and 5 hours worth of time. And, I got a high five and told I was awesome. So that was the best payment for me. But it is so amazing when you are able to have conversations in a very short period of time and find ways to eliminate hours and a lot of dollars out of a business because you can find information you didn't know. Because that's what I got a lot of as well. I didn't know that. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know that was available. And so you could end up spending hundreds of dollars for something you didn't need to. And that's a lot of business owners, especially if you're subscribed to anything. I'm sure everybody has monthly bills in their business. I guarantee you if I sat down with any one of you for an hour, I could probably find at least $100 per month that you're spending that you don't need, and probably a whole lot more. I can 90% guarantee it because most business owners are spending money on things they don't have to. And or they're spending money on things that they don't know the ROI, they don't know the payback, and they're not 100% confident it's actually moving their business. But they're paying for it because somebody told them they needed it, or somebody told them that was their only option, or their best option, or they didn't know there was other options. So that's the part that's the most fun for me because, the more you know, the better you can run your business, and honestly, the more profitable you'll be. And productivity aside, if you're not profitable, you're not in business. So I always want to talk about the next. The next one is, I always say the next one's my favorite because they're all my favorite because it's all relating to making your business better. And to me, that's just fun. But automating your business. So again, this is getting into finding that 80% of things that you don't need to be doing and finding the lowest cost, most efficient, quickest way to get it done. So some of that automation is in your systems. You can automate your systems, but some of that is the tools and techniques, and I love to talk about some of my favorite automation tools because I have a $20 a month personal assistant that does a whole lot of work for me that's completely automated. And to me, that's your best cost. Now, with that being said, I don't want people to fire their secretaries. I don't want to advocate not hiring people and not having human conversations. It's what somebody asked me the other day. It's like, well, I still need to talk to my clients. I'm like, I am not saying you don't need to talk to your clients. But I'm saying if your clients get a reminder email, if they get a reminder text, it actually improves your customer service, not detracts from it. Now, if that's the only communication, yeah, it can. But especially if it's something you're doing every month or every quarter or everything, you don't need to physically call them for those things. As long as they know you're available and you call them once in a while and they know when you're going to call them, you don't need to have all those personal actions. If you have on your calendar, you need to call 100 people this month. Do you really need to call 100 people? Or would 80 of them be okay with a text, email, or reminder, or follow-up, or, they just need notified of what your interaction is. I mean, how many of things do we spend a lot of money on every month that we don't get anything but email interaction? But as long as that customer service line is always available, we're not complaining about it because we know that they will help us anytime we have a problem. So it really depends on that agreement and that thing, but automation can actually improve your customer service, not detract from it if it's done right. But again, I really, simplifying is all about eliminating the things in your business that you don't need. Has anybody ever done value stream mapping? It's fun. Sorry. I have a lot of, I know I totally geek out over improving business, but it's about evaluating the things you do in a day and what's the true value of them. And the things that have very low value, how can we reduce the amount of time we spend on it or completely put it offline? Again, that goes into the other things. And then always at the end of the year and the middle of the year, business planning, because you want to plan. If you want to change your business next year, if you want to grow your business, you want to double your business, you need a solid plan. And you also need to know what it's going to look like if you're wanting to do those things and what it's gonna take. That is all I have. So, I hope, couple things, hope that's been beneficial, or at least you've learned one or two things. And of course, even though I'm not hilarious, I like to add in some personal notes because I just don't take myself too seriously. So I hope it's been educational, somewhat entertaining, and I hope you'll take one thing away and take one action that you might have done differently next week that will help you in your business. But at this time, I am just gonna open it up to sit down and drink my coffee.